All right, so we have a question via Flamingo Poppins at Twitter, at Flamingo Poppins. Thoughts on how to prioritize multiple tasks that need to be done yesterday for the greater good of the whole? Yeah, that is the ultimate challenge. I've personally actually stopped keeping a to-do list. Um, I know that's kind of blasphemous in some circles if you're a GTDer, which stands for getting things done. For those of you who don't know, uh, I think that you know one of the things I used to do was kind of capture all the things that I thought I needed to do, and I would, I'd put them into my email. I put them into my, I used a product called Flow, which was really fantastic, getflow.com, and and as I would just keep loading these things in this to-do list, I realized that my brain could produce more things to do than I could actually do. And so, a week later, it would just be this huge long list of things that were all seemed important. But ultimately we're just creating a lot of like mental drain. And sometimes sometimes you really do have, five things that absolutely all are really, really important and they all have to happen. And those are tough times because you really have to choose. Ultimately, though, you can only focus on one thing at a time. Multitasking is a fallacy. And if you haven't done the research on this, I really highly recommend looking into this. That if you're trying to multitask and do too many things, do more than one thing at once, over time, if you had kind of two different tasks and you multitask through them, I mean, scientifically, you'll see this, that it will take you, 30, 50, if not 100% longer to do those two tasks than if you'd done them in sequence. And so ultimately, you really have to ask yourself, what is the most important thing? I've got five things on my plate. They all seem really, really critical. Before jumping into number one, is there something I can delegate? So get it off your plate, get it to somebody who can at least handle it, even if they can do it at 75 or 80% as good as you. Is there something that I can renegotiate a commitment? Can I call this client and say, you know what, I know I promised this, but this has come up. Is it possible to push this to tomorrow? So you want to do those things up front before you jump into one of these things, because then these really important things are now getting pushed off. But ultimately, I think, what I come back to, and I said I'd kind of given up my to-do list, is I have a list of, outcomes, 3 or 4 or 5 priorities that we're focused on in any month or quarter. And I look at those priorities and I align my actions based on that. So, I'll sit down and I'll block off time that's dedicated for single focusing. Turn off all distractions, turn off my cell phone, turn off my hip chat, turn off all the things. I'll turn on a timer because I want to make sure I only work for a certain period of time, anywhere from like 50 to 100 minutes, and I will just work on that one thing until it's done. And it is amazing what happens when you get into, and it's really hard to do in this kind of like over technologized world that we live in. But if you're able to do this, and really focus, you can enter what's called the flow state pretty easily. It's for most people it seems like it's this far off thing because we're interrupted so often. And if you're in any sort of creative endeavor, if you're a software developer, if you are if you're a writer, every single interruption can take up to 15 minutes to get back to where you started. And so it's really important to basically turn off anything unless it's like the bat phone that people need to reach you in an absolute emergency, and to hide your text and turn your phone off and just single focus. And I guarantee if you're able to do that for a couple of weeks, then you'll start to see that some of those like need to be done yesterday, super high priority tasks, you'll be on top of them. And that's been my experience.